Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Power versus precision. Who breaks first? Devin Haney or Brian Norman Jr.? Let me tell y'all something. Everyone knows I'm picking Brian Norman Jr. to get the win. But this is a very interesting fight. Very, very interesting fight. I see that people are split. Fans are split. But I'm sticking with Brian Norman Jr. Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's get, because people need to understand what we're about to see here. Yeah, that's much better. We're about to see something special, man, with Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr. Boom. It ain't about me, it's about the fighters. First, let me just tell y'all thanks for clicking on the video and thanks for the support. Look, man, Devin Haney is about to face one of the most dangerous and unpredictable boxing champions today, man. Brian Norman Jr., this is not just another fight. This is career defining. We just need to really explore a few things that Devin Haney can do to try to get the respect from Brian Norman Jr., okay? So, Devin Haney is walking into the biggest risk of his career. And I'm going to tell you what makes it so dangerous for Devin Haney. It's not just Brian Norman Jr.'s power, it's his timing as well. Very, very underestimated. Haney's moving up to 147, entering a division full of, look, no matter how big Devin Haney gets in between fights, the 147-pound division is full of, bigger, naturally bigger, stronger, more explosive fighters. For the first time in Haney's career, I don't think he's going to be the bigger man in the ring. The size advantage that he's used to controlling, that he's used to having to control smaller fighters, I just think it's gone. Okay? The one thing Haney's going to have, which I just don't think goes anywhere, speed and that jab. That jab, like Larry Holmes said, got the best jab in the business. Devin Haney, no kidding, he may have the best jab in the business because when he gets that jab going, he's able to push opponents back. But although he's been able to push opponents back, it may now bounce off of a man who's just as physically imposing as Devin Haney has been to the guys in the smaller weight classes. So the jab may not mean anything. Hey, listen, this isn't just a physical test. You know what I'm saying? This is a psychological one. Can Devin Haney adapt? Can he evolve from a slick technician into a power-respected fighter who earns enough space to execute his game plan? Is Bill Haney going to keep it together when he sees Devin getting the ATL bing bings put on him? Because against Brian Norman Jr., Devin Haney's going to have to figure out a way to execute his game plan. And we know it's supposed to be Bill Haney who puts together the strategy, puts together the game plan. Because I'm telling you, hopefully one thing that he incorporated into that strategy is to make sure that Devin Haney can create space. Because against Brian Norman Jr., space is everything. If Devin Haney can't maintain that space, from the first second of the first round to the last second of the last round, Brian Norman Jr. is going to touch him. And when he touches Devin Haney, timber! Or it's going to be lights out. They better bring a generator up in there to plug it up to Devin Haney's ass to turn his lights back on. Because Brian Norman Jr. is going to hit him with the bing bings. And that's the thing here. Put some respect on Brian Norman Jr.'s name. I don't know what it's going to take for me to get y'all to realize, man, that this fella can fight. We already know. We've seen what Devin has done against, lesser opposition. Ain't nobody Devin fought that will whip Brian Norman Jr.'s ass. Get out of here with that bullshit. Even if those guys were at 147, they ain't beating Brian Norman Jr. Brian Norman Jr. and his dad have been rehearsing how to do that goddamn ATL Dirty Bird dance. It's basically going to be like the Atlanta Falcons scoring a touchdown and somebody spiking that ball in the end zone after Brian Norman Jr. knocks Devin Haney out cold. You got to be honest about the power. Devin isn't known for his power. That's why I'm telling y'all this. Can Devin Haney stay a step ahead of Brian Norman Jr. the whole fight? Maybe, because Devin Haney is that special. Plus, he got the Conti cocktail. I'm not saying there's anything foul going on, but the Conti cocktail is goddamn real. That ain't no joke. That's the truth. Whatever they doing over there, the shit works. Devin's known for control, accuracy, known for intelligence, but at 147, that control might not be enough. Norman Jr. is aggressive, confident, punches with full commitment. Haney's problem is he might not have enough pop to make Brian Norman Jr. second guess his approach, and that's what Haney's going to have to do. He's going to have to create some doubt in Brian Norman Jr. and make him reluctant to let his hands go. Now, Devin Haney can do that with the single pop shot, just shooting the jab, step around, jab, create distance, tie him up. Devin Haney can do things that can disrupt the rhythm of most fighters. But against somebody like Brian Norman Jr., Devin Haney got to be worried about being too aggressive and focusing on trying to disrupt anything Brian Norman Jr. brings to the table. And all of a sudden, Brian Norman Jr. with his timing. And let me tell you something, right? The timing, speed, footwork, and power of Brian Norman Jr. is being underestimated. But understand this. Brian Norman Jr., he looks simple. I've said in another video, I'm going to keep saying it. Brian Norman Jr. is 2025 Gennady Golovkin. He's the 2025 Danny Swift Garcia. Looks simple, but highly effective and just keeps winning and knocking people out. Y'all can say what y'all want. Brian Norman Jr., if he doesn't respect what Haney's bringing to the table, his power, etc., he's going to walk him down. Cutting that ring off, and Devin's going to be like, feet don't fail me now, Betty, Betty, Betty. He's going to fly his ass up out of there. Devin can't afford to have another Ramirez type performance, man, and that's the nightmare scenario for Devin Haney and his dad, Beijing Bill. Haney getting pressured, forced to fight off the back foot, and relying purely on survival instead of dominance. Because I'm telling you, Devin Haney get hit hard. If he gets hit hard, Devin Haney gonna freak out. You know what I'm saying? He is going to freak out. So, can Devin Haney do what Terence Crawford did? Can Devin Haney incorporate some training methods during his training camp to increase his power? We saw when Crawford fought Canelo, the man had speed, he had power, he had explosiveness. Crawford still had his agility. Crawford had everything. He had the speed of a 147-pounder, the power of a super middleweight. That functional mass was the key. So, for me, it's like with Devin, how's he close that gap between himself and Brian Norman Jr.? It starts in the gym. 1, explosive strength training. We've seen him there doing some explosive strength training, like he wants to really strengthen up that left hook and stuff like that. But I tell you this, they have something called Olympic lifts, like cleans and snatches to improve hip drive and rotational power. That's something that Devin Haney, I believe, is doing. 2, plyometric resistance work. The medicine ball slams, rotational throws, and banded punches to teach the body to deliver force faster. That's something that we've seen Devin Haney doing. And then 3, isometric training for punch stability. Holding mid-range positions against resistance to strengthen the core and shoulders. This is crucial for that snap at the end of the punch. These are things that I've seen some clips where Haney seems to be doing. All good. That's what you need to be doing, young Dev. Well, actually, it ain't young Dev no more. Dev almost a goddamn pop running around here. Matter of fact, it's young Norman Jr. Because there's, I think, like 6-7 year difference in age. But Haney should also add altitude simulation and oxygen restriction training to improve endurance while throwing with more force. You see, power fades when fatigue sets in, and Norman Jr. will push that limit. I want to see who's going to be able to recognize the other one's tired, and when they're tired, make them work. So stamina is really important here. Terence Crawford had an expanded gas tank when he fought Canelo, and that had a lot to do with why Terence Crawford was able to perform the way he did. Devin Haney has never been an issue with his stamina. Brian Norman Jr., I don't think I've seen him have any stamina issues. But Devin Haney could push that, could test that. But Brian Norman Jr. and his pops are putting the work in. So it's going to be very, very interesting, okay? Now, there are some pictures of Devin Haney circling around, and no, he doesn't have a thong on and nothing like that. Thank God. He has added some mass. He is looking chiseled. He's looking good. I got to give him, I like to see athletes in shape. Remind me when I was younger, you know what I'm saying? People think I'm joking. I had to show y'all. Matter of fact, I have shown pictures. I may show some, but it ain't about me. But I just respect that. And I have no problem saying, yo, looking good, looking in shape. That ain't what these young boys say. No diddy, no diddy. Get out of here with that bull crap. I respect that. My sons are like that, in shape. My 15-year-old especially, man. He ain't got, if you see the striations all over that dude, man, I just look at him. I be like, yo, you in shape. He know it. He don't even want to come out the bathroom. I'm going knock on the door. What you doing? He be like, hold on. Put on his little boxer shorts and shit. I'm like, what you doing? In there flexing. I'm like, man, get your ass out the mirror. But I ain't gonna lie. I was probably worse than his ass at his age. All the way up until, even now, I'd be up in the mirror and shit. I was 270. So when I retired, I was like, so in my prime, 205 is about my prime. 205, I'm ready for Hollywood. 230, I'm straight. But once I get over that, it's all mashed potatoes. Even though I still got the frame, and I know how I feel. But to get to 278, I was like, no, this ain't it. You know what I'm saying? But now I was down to 230. I'm floating between 235, 236. But I'll be down to about 215 probably by January 15th. But it does something for you when you're in shape like that. And for me, I just respect seeing these athletes put their body through hell to take on this totally different appearance, and does a lot for their confidence. But understand, when it comes to Devin Haney, adding that mass, he's adding mass for functionality. He's not adding it just to become bulky. And this is where a lot of fighters make the mistake of bulking up and losing fluidity. Devin can't afford that. He needs functional mass, compact, explosive, and fluid. That means he needs to be doing more compound lifts and less isolation work, more sprint intervals and less slow cardio. You got to teach his body to fire off power in short, controlled bursts, the same way Norman Jr. And this is the thing, Norman Jr. naturally does. But it's going to require a bit of a mindset shift. Power isn't just physical. You know what I'm saying? Power is not only about muscles. Everybody think when you see muscles, oh, that means you're big and strong. No, that doesn't mean you got muscles. But power is about intention. It's about intention. Haney has to mentally shift from boxing to win rounds to boxing to inflict damage. This doesn't mean abandoning his IQ and throwing away his jab. No. That's not what we're saying. It just means merging his brains with bad intentions. Devin the Dream needs to become Devin the Nightmare. When he snaps that jab, he has to believe that jab can hurt, can kill, can split, can break. When he lands a straight right, he has to turn his hips like he's trying to punch through the target. The change starts in mindset before it shows in the results. Moreover, this is the first time, I think this is the first time in Haney's career, I do believe that, where he'll look across the ring and see someone who's not smaller than him. When he ran up on Brian Norman Jr., like, oh, he's small. That's the first thing came out of his mouth. Always talking about looking at his size compared to someone else like that. He wants to believe that he's going to have the size advantage. Let me tell you something. No more size advantage, Devin. Sorry. No more bullying opponents with your clinch. This changes everything. When you can't physically impose your will, you have to be sharper. You have to be smarter. You have to be faster. Haney's speed must now become his weapon. But here's the catch. Norman Jr. is quick too. Put some respect on his name. He's not a plotter. He can explode with combinations, and his reflexes are sharp. Haney must rely on timing more than ever. Timing beats speed. And that's where Haney's IQ can shine. If he can time Norman's entries and counter with authority, he can slow the pace of the fight and regain control. But the thing is, you better believe Norman Jr. is not just going to come in there and just recklessly run in on Devin Haney. They respect what Devin Haney brings to the table. They know he's talented, but that's why they're doing the work and preparing the best they can for Devin Haney, who's bringing 100% to the ring. They're expecting power, they're expecting speed, they're expecting IQ, they're expecting angles, pivots, clinches, mid-round adjustments. They're expecting everything. Expanded gas tank. They're expecting everything from Devin Haney. I'm just saying, Devin going to have to figure out a way to, I think he's going to lose control of the fight at some point. And he's going to have to figure out a way to try to regain it. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it, man. Because when you're under pressure, well, when you're not under pressure, your defense can be on point. But he got to be able to have his defense maintain his composure under pressure. One of Haney's best weapons has always been his defense. But that shoulder roll, trying to pull counter and pivoting off the rope shit, that's extremely dangerous. Very volatile, man, when you're going up against someone like Brian Norman Jr. I just think this time the pressure will be more relentless. Devin will have to figure it out, man. Norman Jr. doesn't just come forward. He comes forward angrily. Haney must fight calm in chaos, like Mayweather did against Maidana. He'll need to smother, clinch, pivot, and make Norman miss just enough to frustrate him without taking too many clean shots. Still, defense alone won't save him. Against Norman Jr., Haney must have... Listen. Against Norman Jr., Haney must make Norman pay every time he misses. Otherwise, Norman will just keep you swinging until something lands. You know what I mean? Norman is just going to keep swinging. I'm telling you. And Norman Jr., he is very accurate. The thing is, he reminds me of Miguel Cotto. I already said Triple G and Danny Garcia. But Miguel Cotto, with the fact he doesn't really show much emotion. You know what I'm saying? It's like he has confidence. He believes in his skills, and he knows it's just a matter of time before I touch him. It's a matter of time. And he is working towards that every round. And a lot of times he starts touching fighters early, and you can see the fight change. Like the whole fight just changes. Once he puts them goddamn ATL bing-bings on somebody, the fight changes. And Devin got to be careful with all that shoulder roll and catch and pull and all pulling counter and all catch and shoot and all that bullshit. There's a lot of danger to trying to look too pretty. One of the biggest criticism after the Regis Prograis fight and the Ramirez bout in Times Square was that Haney out here fighting to win, not to dominate. He boxes beautifully. We got to give him credit for that, but sometimes it looks like he's playing it safe. Against Norman Jr., that strategy can get him hurt and cause him to fight for sure. If he tries to dance, flick jabs, and coast through rounds, Norman Jr. will walk him down and break him mentally and physically. Fans don't want to see a running Haney, and the judges might not reward it either. This time he must take risks, sit on punches, and show some bite, or he's going to get bitten, and the pound of flesh is going to be taken out of his ass. But I'll say this, because I know there's some people saying, oh man, here you go again, hood champion, you're just a tail wagger, you no good, and you hate Devin. Let y'all tell the story. I hate everybody, unless I'm talking about your favorite fighter, y'all want to come and try to poke me in the eye. But how about this? Hey, yo, hold your horses. Stop taking it to the stupid. Get out of here, McNicholas. Haney's speed is the wild card. That shit's the wild card, I'm telling you. Speed is still Devin Haney's ace. Hand speed, foot speed, reaction time. He like a mongoose in there. You know what I mean? That's what they should be calling him. Devin the Mongoose Haney. Just reaction time, reflexes are crazy. That shit could win him the fight. You know, if he can sting Norman early with the speed combinations, keep angles changing, and bank early rounds, he can frustrate Norman into overcommitting. Haney got to set them traps though, double feints, step outs, pull counters, and make Norman miss big and pay for it. So the fight will test his ability to use his IQ under fire, not just in control. It's going to be interesting, man. Psychological warfare. Brian Norman Jr. feeds off disrespect, and Devin Haney has definitely tried to disrespect him. His dad has disrespected the team. And when his dad, I'm talking about Beijing Bill. They've been out here just doing what they normally do, trying to get an upper hand, but I don't think it's worked. It's done nothing but just piss Brian Norman Jr. off. I'm rooting for Brian Norman Jr. I like Devin Haney, but I just, that shit, see, when you start disrespecting people who had cancer, people who passed away, I don't like that shit. And Beijing Bill said something that crossed the line, and you could tell that Brian Norman Jr. didn't appreciate it. But the bottom line is, Brian Norman Jr. feeds off of disrespect. He's the kind of fighter, in my opinion, that grows stronger when the crowd doubts him. The more you disrespect him, the more passionate he's going to be about getting there, winning the fight. Doesn't mean he's going to be reckless. Just mean his whole mission is to destroy you and win. Devin must not get into a trash-talking war. That ain't his strength. That's his dad's strength. Devin's confidence needs to come through performance, not words. The more Devin talks, the more he fuels Norman's motivation. Silence and execution should be his best weapons. And he's got to understand that. Because they've talked too much, in my opinion. That's why when you watch Norman Jr., Devin's locked in too, but I'm just getting a different energy from Brian Norman Jr. And I'm going to keep saying it. So, what's really on the line? Look, if Devin Haney wins this fight, it reestablishes his credibility as an elite multi-division fighter. But if he loses, especially by KO, it could be career-altering. A knockout loss at a new weight class can shatter a fighter's marketability and confidence. And fans are already critical of Haney's chin. A bad knockout would feed the narrative and erase much of the respect he's built. This isn't just a fight, this is survival of his brand. But I will say this, Ryan Garcia is a cocklehole. I don't like the fact that Ryan got in there and had to cheat, and I do believe he cheated. Like 95% of me believes Ryan Garcia cheated. The only reason why 5% of me feels like there may be a little bit more to it is because Victor Conte came out. And this is the problem when you got somebody like that. The people who want to just let the world know that I'm smarter than you. Victor Conte should have shut his stinking hole. When he came out and said he knows how to help fighters pass blood and urine testing. That just let me know if he can do that, then there's so many other things he can do. And that's when I said, well, shit. You know, let's see what else is he capable of ensuring happens. You know what I'm saying? So when you got a guy like that who has that kind of knowledge, that kind of, you know, obviously there's some power there, he's dangerous. But I just think Ryan Garcia is foul for beating up Devin Haney the way he did on pads. If you beat him fair and square, even Devin Haney can handle that. But I do believe Ryan Garcia cheated. I do. You know what I'm saying? I believe he cheated. I do. And I don't like the fact that Devin was damaging that fight. And now he got to come out here and, you know, fight elite fighters knowing that maybe there was a pound of flesh taken out of him. He dropped the lawsuit and shit, but they did him wrong, man. They did Devin Haney wrong. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But anyway, as far as my final prediction, man, if Haney can add enough power and earn respect, you know what I'm saying? Not dominate, just earn respect and stay disciplined with his movement and combinations, he can get that decision. But if Norman Jr. feels no sting early, I'm telling you, he's got to feel that sting. The fight will become a war. And in a war, Norman has the advantage. This can be the Battle of Normandy. Get it? Haney has the tools to win, but only if he reinvents himself, physically and mentally. Anything less, and we might be watching the end of the dream. But he got to be a nightmare inside that ring, you know what I'm saying? That being said, y'all keep cool. Power versus precision. Who breaks first? I don't know. But if you force me to bet, and I'm not a betting man, I'm going with Norman Jr. to get the victory. By KO, violent KO. In the breeze.